Hey guys, it's Lizzie. So today, I need to get into the frame today, but today I want to talk about how to respond to Protestants who are hateful to our Catholicism in a way that will actually cause them to convert into Catholicism. I feel like I know this best because I grew up hating Catholicism and believing so many lies about it. I thought that Catholics worshipped Mary, worshipped statues, worshipped pictures, worshipped the Pope, all of it. And I thought they believed that every word that came out of the Pope's mouth was directly from God. I thought that the Catholic Church was invented in like the 5th or 6th century and that they added books to the Bible in the Middle Ages. I just believed all sorts of things about the Catholic Church. And it wasn't my fault. And today on Twitter, I was arguing with someone who was like going after Bishop Barron for some ridiculous reason. And he said Bishop Barron is heretical. I don't think he said he's heretical, but he said Bishop Barron isn't a saint. He teaches that people outside of the Catholic Church can go to heaven, can be saved. And I was responding to him and I was like, absolutely, the Vatican teaches this. The Catholic Church teaches this. It's even in the Catechism. And he said, yeah, but that's talking about people who have never heard of Catholicism. People who have heard of Catholicism are at fault and will go to hell if they're not Catholic. And my response to that was to say, no, we're not at fault. Growing up in the United States, in a majority Protestant country, all of these things were taught to me at school, like in public school, by my church, by my parents, in my family. These things are just taught in our culture because it's a Protestant majority culture. And I think that happens with like anything when it comes to religion, nationality, the minority. There will always be stigma and lies made up about a minority group. It's just what happens in the world. So I think that it's normal that people believe these stigmas and it's not their fault. It's purely because of how they grew up, and then people are sharing it because of how that person grew up and then how that person grew up. So just lies that have been passed down and passed down and passed down. And like, believe me, because you guys know how much of like all of my heart, all of my soul went into my conversion. It was so intensive, so much research. Like, I've always cared so much about truth, always changing my positions on theology and philosophy way before I even converted into Catholicism. So if it was possible, like epistemologically, for me to see Catholicism to be true, like I would have years and years ago, but it was impossible because of how I grew up. So I think that's the first step, is just forgiving people and understanding that it's no one's fault when it comes to them not knowing the truths of the church. Believe me, as someone who was Protestant, we're just taught all of these things, and I think that one of the main problems, I'm gonna get my water. One of the main problems is that there's a lot of Catholics who are not living out their faith. There's so many people who grow up Catholic, who don't go to Mass, who I went to school with, who know nothing about Catholicism, who don't care about God, who don't believe in God, who are setting a bad representation for the faith. And so I have my LaCroix here. I've been switching over to it because it's gotten so hot for summer. So I have to have like cold drinks all the time. Obviously I have my water filter too, but I don't know. I used to never get tired of water, but now I'm at that point. I was always like, how are you tired of drinking water? It's water. Like, water is water. But now I kind of understand people that in Brazil, Catholics are the majority, and still there is so much Catholic hate in Brazil coming from Protestants and also people who hold a more progressive agenda because they think we are homophobes. That is so interesting that even in a majority of Catholic country it still happens. So yeah, that kind of like changes my main thesis that it's because we're a minority. But I guess another reason that I think there's so many stigmas and lies floating around is just because Catholicism is very complicated and it's very complex and it's hard to explain. And we have the biggest intellectual minds of all of humanity in Catholicism, in the Catholic Church, explaining things theologically. And so I think the average person who grows up at Mass and grows up Catholic, it's difficult to explain things like papal infallibility, transubstantiation. It takes a lot of effort to research things and understand them, and I think especially as like children and teenagers, like, definitely we should have better catechesis, but I think it kind of makes makes sense why people are confused, because it's so technical. And that's even kind of a criticism that the Orthodox Church gives to us. They're very into like mystery, like everything's a mystery. Like, why do you have to explain the Eucharist? Why do you have to explain all these things about the Trinity? It's a mystery. But the Catholic Church has dealt with so many heresies through the years. We have had to explain it so meticulously. And so it's difficult to understand. And then when it comes to homosexuality, we're dealing with natural theology, and you have to understand Aristotle and Aquinas and their whole moral system to understand our view against gay marriage. So there's all these things that are so complex to understand, and I think even for the average Catholic, it's difficult to be informed about the faith. So then when people who don't know Catholicism are asking questions about it, it's easy to be leading people astray unintentionally. And so that's why I think a lot of things need to change when it comes to Catholic school and Catholic parents. I think we need to do a better job of teaching the faith and passing on the faith to our children. And like, I have so many ideas of things that should happen. I think there should be, like, maybe this already exists, but there should be like theology picture books talking about technical theology things for children. Like dolls to play with, like something that's very Catholic, age appropriate, where you're teaching very technical theology all of growing up. And I know Tim and Steph Gordon, they talk about their homeschooling a lot, and they have like theology homeschooling starting when the kids are really young. So I think that's amazing. And I think even if you're not homeschooling your kids, you should still be teaching them theology. And also in their homeschooling curriculum, they have like Aristotle, natural theology, and like Latin. They're teaching to their kids when they're really, really, really young. And so I think homeschooling is really important. Even if you're sending your kids to public school, we should probably be doing a lot of theology and not depending on the church. Like, the primary purpose of marriage is to not only have children, but to educate the children in the church. Do you think Satanism is on the rise in the US? I don't think so. I think it's kind of like there's loud voices who call themselves Satanists, but in actuality, the numbers are just not going to be there. Yeah, so age appropriate, educating our children. So that's kind of how to fix the problem long term on a systemic level. But when it comes to people who you know who are Catholic, kind of the entire introduction of this video has just been be patient and gentle and not sensitive. And this is really hard. And the reason I'm talking about this is the video I literally just uploaded was a Q&A Ask Lizzie video, and one of the questions in it was, how do you deal with Mary haters? And so I was thinking I should make a whole live stream of how to deal with like Catholic haters in general. But literally in the video I was laughing and saying like, oh, I used to be a Mary hater too, like, haha, this is just the thing that Protestants are. And so you should just be really, really patient with people and gentle and non-judgmental. Even though they're being so judgmental to you, you shouldn't be judgmental back. And this is literally the gospel. Jesus is like, if you greet people who greet you, what is that? Even the sinners and tax collectors can be nice to people who are nice to them. So it's our job as Christians, when people are offending us or hurting us or talking bad about us. In the Beatitudes, Jesus said, you're blessed when people revile you, when they persecute you, and they talk bad about you. You're blessed because you're freed from putting your worth in how people are viewing you. So we should see it as even a positive thing when people are talking bad about the faith. Like, we're blessed when we're freed from caring what other people think about us. So that's number one. And number two, we're supposed to love our enemies, and we're supposed to respond to people with kindness. So when someone is unkind to us, we're supposed to be kind back. When someone is not gentle to us, we're supposed to be gentle back. So if people are talking bad about our faith, talking bad about Mother Mary, then we should be gentle and loving and kind and charitable and not give to them what they're dishing to us, if that makes sense. So that's my main thing. And I think it's really, really hard for people to not be sensitive. Like, every speaking event I've done, if we do a Q&A, I always get asked this question. People ask, how do I share my faith with people who hate Catholicism, with my friends and family? Like, I get so sensitive, like, I get angry, I start crying. And I know it's hard to just, like, stop having an emotion, but I mean, I do it all the time because I'm bipolar, so I have to force myself to, like, stop feeling an emotion because I'm like, I'm sad right now for literally no reason. Stop being sad. Or, like, I'm getting mad right now because I'm manic. Stop getting mad. Or, like, I'm too happy. Stop being that elated. So I feel like I've gotten really used to, like, turning off my emotions and everything, and I know it's hard for other people, but maybe pray about it a lot if this is, like, a consistent problem you're dealing with people in your life who talk bad about Catholicism and everything, but just take a gentle conciliatory approach and have a lot of empathy for them. And I think too, sometimes defending yourself isn't always the best way to go. Like, I'll give a personal example from my life. So I was with two of my friends, and they're married now, and we were watching a sermon because they couldn't make it to church that day. And I'd already gone to mass, but I was like, sure, I'll watch a sermon, that's great. And it was a Protestant sermon, but they were talking bad about Catholicism in the sermon. And they were talking about faith versus works, and they said, yeah, Catholics believe they're saved through their own works, through the power of themselves. And it was just completely wrong, because in Catholicism, we believe that faith and works go together, and then it's God's grace working through us, working out our salvation. So it was a complete mischaracterization of the Catholic view on faith and works. And we were all sitting there together, and I was, like, very angry internally, because I was like, this is such a lie. And I didn't say anything, but I looked up on my computer, like, literally the Council of Trent, and I was, like, gonna show it to them, but then I was like, oh, guys, thank you for the donation. Thank you for the donation, Raul. Thank you for the really adorable pair, Amy. That's so cute. I have empathy. Anyone interested learning the skill? Faith alone doesn't exist. Yeah, exactly. So I literally found in the Council of Trent when it was talking about this, like, after the fact, and I was like, should I bring this up? Should I make it into an argument? And I decided not to. And some of you might disagree with that approach of not correcting people in my life, but I think a lot of times, like, for example, when Jesus was being tried by Pilate, he was quiet and he didn't say anything when Pilate asked him questions. And so I think that when I prayed the sorrowful mysteries, I pray the sorrowful mysteries with Immaculee, like IMMACULEE, Immaculee. It's a website, and they have rosary mysteries. And it talks about how when we are suffering or being talked bad about, sometimes we just have to die to ourselves and shut up and not speak up. And so for me, I don't, and it's the same, like, pretty much actually every time I attend a Protestant church, like 80% of the time, they say something bad about Catholicism. Like, it's crazy because I grew up my whole life in Protestantism, and I didn't realize that we were talking bad about Catholicism that much, but it happens a lot. And it always, like, you get so angry because someone's lying about you, just, like, blatantly lying about what you believe. But I always hold it inside, and I know that when my best friends are ready to ask me, why did you become Catholic? What does the Catholic Church believe about faith alone salvation? Why does the Catholic Church disagree with sola scriptura? Like, when my best friends are ready and have an open heart to come ask me those questions, I know exactly what I'll say. I know exactly how to respond to them, and they can become Catholic. But I think people have to be in, like, the right mental place to even want to convert, which I know sounds kind of illogical and irrational, but even for me, someone who cares so much about truth and put so much time researching and reading into this, I had to be in a certain emotional place where I was open to it being from Protestantism, like, literally, like, one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, and finally I was like, last straw moment, is this true? So it literally took, I need a charger. It literally took so many
coffee
people
instead.
Oh, sorry.
Or even a smoothie or a glass of.
There's an ad playing. I feel like I have, like, a YouTube video up that I was not done watching. Let me X out of it. I was like, oh my goodness, it's gonna play a copyrighted song. This is gonna get demonetized. That's my first thought. One time, in my old apartment, there were like 5 of us living in the apartment, and I was live streaming, and they were like blasting music, and I was like, guys, stop, it's gonna get demonetized. And they thought it was so funny that like 10 seconds of a song like in the way background of the apartment would get my live stream demonetized. So it's difficult because you have to learning of how you interact with each individual. Yeah, and I think also, like in a lot of those cases, I have to check myself and ask, am I in a calm place right now to faith alone salvation thing when they were like Catholics by your own power? If I had just been straight up like, that's a lie about Catholicism, it wouldn't have come from a place of love and charity and gentleness. And I don't know, maybe I was wrong, but hi Mariana, thank you for the super chat. I have an important prayer request. Basically, my friend who used to be a devout Catholic is converting into spiritualism. Please pray for her. I will screenshot this and pray for your friend. I don't even know what that means though. I mean, spiritualism. Catholicism is so spiritual. I don't even know what it means, spiritualism. What is spiritualism? I know, right? Lizzie, you are such a nice girl. If all Catholics were like you, our faith would be the best one for everyone. Aw. How to donate. How do you donate to my channel? Go Google account. I've missed you in my Bible study. So if you want to donate to my channel, you can donate to my PayPal, which is LizziesAnswers, the same as my Instagram and Twitter, just LizziesAnswers@gmail.com. Lizzie with an I. Patreon is probably the easiest place to donate. It's patreon.com/LizziesAnswers, and there's a lot of fun rewards there where I follow people on social media. We can Skype together. You can make a video request, so I'll make like a personal video for you. You can be in a video. So there's a lot of different rewards on my Patreon that are really fun. It starts at $2 a month. So there's literally so many people who just do $2 a month, and it adds up once there's like a lot of people there. So literally sign up for $2 a month or $5 a month. There's a lot of like little rewards for those as well. So yeah, if you want to donate to my channel, Patreon is the easiest way. And some of the top rewards, I actually text. I don't know why I'm live streaming on my phone. I have a Google number on my phone that actually goes to like my notification screen and everything. So if you want to text me and have my phone number, that's a thing too. Because for all my social media, I have all my notifications turned off. So it's like highly unlikely that I'll a donation by yourself. But thank you for the donation. But yeah, and I understand people who are like super racist. I understand people's motivations and I think pure intentions when they're doing it, and it's a justice issue. But I think some of it is being taken so far. People who are not even like, for example, a Catholic saints, and I don't think they did a ton of research into the saint, and I think they just assumed things about the saint. They assumed he was racist when he wasn't racist. So I think it's become such a like passionate movement that they're not taking the time to like thoroughly research into each person and figure out who they were at the time and what they did and whether or not they were racist with their behavior. So that's why I think it's good to just do a petition mayor. It happens all the time in a lot of cities where the statues are taken down. I think this has actually been so one example. So Rhode Island's official name is the State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. So they're getting rid of and Providence Plantations from the name, and it was totally interpreted. I was just saying, I don't think this got on. It was clickbait because they're not getting rid of the Rhode Island part. They're getting rid of the State of Rhode Island, Providence Plantations. They're getting rid of the name. So I think that's really cool that because of this movement, the mayor of the city is, I think it's the mayor, the governor of the, it's a state, sorry. The governor, I'm over in California. I totally forgot the Northeast when we talked about it in school. So, the governor decided to get rid of the name. I think that's really, really cool. So I think it should be the same thing where we do petitions and we get the governors and everyone to take it down. But I think when you're being very passionate and impulsive, you might make some mistakes. So I think that I think a possible alternative to taking down statues, since it can be expensive, is keeping them up. I mean, I don't think it's not that expensive because everyone's just doing it in their free time. But I get what you mean. They're just like putting them in the river and stuff, you know? Keeping them up, and if they have a racist history, making a plaque with the history and condemning their racist actions. That's really, really cool, because then you're educating people about racism. I think that's a really cool idea. That's definitely a good alternate. What did you think of Bishop Barron's response to the statue being toppled? I get his point, but shouldn't he lead by example? I didn't read his full statement because I know people were mad about it. So yeah, I didn't read the full thing. I saw something about it on Instagram, but I didn't read the full statement. I can look it up real quick. Bishop Barron statement statue. I don't even know if it'll come up. Friends, I am very grateful to share this statement of the bishops of California regarding the removal of the statue. The movement to confront... Oh, yeah, this is so long. That's why I didn't read it. Because I thought it was stupid that they got rid of the statue and kind of rude. But, I mean, probably bulldozers and stuff, but yeah, you have a point. Yeah, I mean, instead of paying for someone to remove it, they could be like, hey, anyone who wants to volunteer to get rid of the statue, like, you guys know what you're doing. Sarah made heroic sacrifices to protect the indigenous people of California from their Spanish conquerors. Even with his infirmed leg, which caused him such pain, he walked all the way to Mexico City to obtain special faculties of governance from the Viceroy of Spain in order to discipline the military who were abusing the Indians. And then he walked back to California. Anyways, so he's not a racist person. They misunderstood him because they were being very passionate. Yeah, so can you guys explain to me what was wrong about the statement? But then will plantation workers lose their jobs because they're taking away the plantations? I think you're misunderstanding it. So they're literally just changing the name of Rhode Island. I think you're further back. So there used to be plantations in Rhode Island, and it was a racist thing going on, but it doesn't happen anymore, but the name is still there. It's kind of like the Confederate flag, where we got rid of that so long ago, but people still have the flag, so let's get rid of the flag. So I think it's sad that it took a black person being murdered to get rid of Confederate flags on some of the flags and to like get rid of plantation from a city name. So I think that in general, the movement, it's good that we're getting rid of some racist things. I think we can all appreciate that. I mean, maybe not everyone would appreciate that. They also tore down the statue of Ulysses Grant. Don't dismiss this for being passionate. This is full-blooded anti-Western hatred. Well, you have a more positive view of people than I do. I don't think people are being that intentional about it. I don't think they're like going home and like researching like which statues in my area are the most racist. Like, I'm gonna go look at my A-push notes from school and figure out which person is the worst. I think they're just tearing stuff down. I don't think they're thinking that much about it. Like, they literally, in some country in Europe, they spray painted a Mary Madonna with Black Lives Matter, a black Madonna. So people are just passionate and they're angry and they're just doing things. I don't think they're putting that much intent into it. Thank you, Lizzie, for your videos. Hopefully within the next month or two, I will be converting from a Protestant to a Catholic. Yay! Hopefully RCIA can start up. A lot of times, RCIA doesn't start until like August or September, but we shall see. You are so inspiring and you have influenced people worldwide. Me here in New Zealand. Oh, I hope you guys are doing this. Would you happen to Vietnam? But I've had Vietnamese food in Thailand, pretty authentic since it was so close, and it was really, really good. I honestly think racism and any prejudice is a sin. Absolutely. Compiled a list in the UK. This reminds me of the Protestant Revolution. I love it when people call the Protestant Reformation the Protestant Revolution. It's so funny. This reminds me of the Protestant Revolution, the French Revolution, and the Russian Revolution, all iconoclastic in nature and all to destroy history. Yeah, it's interesting for sure. I mean, I think we just need to open up the economy. I know people will disagree with me on this, But people literally have nothing to do. We're all quarantined in our homes, so people would rather like be out and doing things rather than just be sitting at home watching Netflix. Like, let's be real, it's way more I mean, it's horrific that a murder had to happen and that we have to protest police brutality, but I think a lot of people are just kind of taking advantage of it because they're really bored at home. So I think when it comes to taking down statues that are not even racist in nature, if we opened up the economy and everyone had work, then this wouldn't be happening. And I know a lot of cities are like slowly opening up the economy and everything. And I'm not saying like it's bad that they're protesting, obviously. Like, I've made so many videos talking about how I'm in solidarity of Black Lives Mattering and everything. But when it comes to like destroying government property and stuff, if the cities were opened, then people would have less time on their hands. So Illinois has the economy open. How are they doing there? I know Florida, it's the same. I'd rather people sit in front of the TV than be out destroying stuff. But I guess, like, it's been 3 months of quarantine. Like, eventually, like, you've watched all the Netflix shows there are to watch, right? I mean, I don't do Netflix, but, I'm gonna put this here. I've been trying really hard to not, like, get water on wood. Protesting is not wrong. Rioting and looting is. Bishop Barron had a short response on Instagram, shifting the responsibility of the statues onto the laity and saying it's not his concern, essentially. Really? Oh, I feel like I did see that. I didn't read the whole thing, but let's see. Bishop. Also, I figured out I wasn't following Word on Fire on Instagram. And I was like, what? How am I not following Word on Fire? Friends, earlier this week, the bishops made a statement regarding the attacks on the statues of Saint Junipero Serra in San Francisco, Ventura, and Los Angeles. They tore down the statue in 3 okay, that is like planned then if they tore in all places. Well, Bishop, make a statement is all fine and good, but what are you and the other bishops going to do about it? Laity each clergy and not enough on themselves. Okay, writing in their press, pretty bad. I see heroic bishops still for more. Linked in the bio. Okay. I feel like I want to read this in context because that sounds bad. Because like, what are we supposed to do? Like, what would he want us to do? I guess like, are we supposed to make a petition against? Yeah, I don't know what we're supposed to do if someone like tore down the statue and. Yeah, let's read the article. I'm really interested to see what he has to say. I understand why people got mad at that. Swipe to read and visit my Facebook for larger print. Read the article. Why? What are you doing, bishops, about? Why are what the bishops doing about it is the wrong question. While acknowledging that there are legitimate concerns about racism, both historical and contemporary, we insisted that the characterization of Serra as the moral equivalent of Hitler and the missions he founded is simply, yeah, it's completely different. I put a link to the statement on my Word and Fire social media and was gratified to see that many people read it and commented on it. My purpose in this article is not to examine the specific issues surrounding Padre Serra, but rather to respond to a number of remarks in the comics that point to what I think is a real failure to understand a key teaching of Vatican II. Over and again, perhaps 100 times, commentators said some version of, well, Bishop, making a statement is all fine and good, but what are you going to do about it? None of the questions made a concrete suggestion as what precisely they had in mind. But I will gladly admit that there are certain practical steps that bishops can and should take in regard to a situation. We can lobby politicians, incurring legislative changes, and call community leaders together, all of which bishops have been doing. Oh, okay. So they already did everything. So then why are people mad? What struck me again and again as I read those taunting remarks is that these folks are putting way too much onus on the clergy and not enough on themselves. So he already did it. So why didn't he just say, hey guys, we already did legislative changes, lobbying politicians and community leaders? Like, just say that. Why do you have to say the thing after that? That's why people got mad. According to the documents of Vatican II, the clergy are by ordination priests, prophets, and kings. Aw, that's so sweet. We're priests, prophets, and kings. Why are people mad about this article? The tweet sounded bad, but the article's fine. He should have done different tweets. I feel like he took one thing and then it got taken out of context. And oh my gosh, this makes sense. Someone on my feed was complaining about Bishop Barron today. And then like going off about Vatican II, and I was like, why is Bishop Barron getting attacked? This is so weird. So I guess these tweets are why I misunderstood the situation. According to the documents of Vatican II, clergy are priests, prophets, and kings. As priests, they sanctify the people of God through the sacraments. As prophets, they speak the divine word. Oh, clergy are clergy are priests, prophets, and kings. I thought he was talking about how the onus. I don't understand this article. As priests, prophets, and kings. Priests, they sanctify the people of God through the sacraments. As prophets, they speak the divine word. As kings, they order the charisms of the community towards the realization of the kingdom of God. So I don't understand how this part is related to the other part. Now the laity, by virtue of their baptism, are also priests, prophets, and kings in Lumen Gentium. Oh, okay, so I was reading it right. But their sanctifying, teaching, and governing work is directed, but outwardly to the world. Oh, so he's saying basically that, like, they are charged to take teaching, direction, and sanctification that they've received from the priests and bishops, and then go forth, equipped to transform the world, and thereby find their own path to holiness. So then he's quoting Lumen Gentium for a long time. It would be instructive to apply these principles to the present situation in our culture. So he's basically saying that, like, as a Catholic, like, individual Catholics, like, I should have been the one to start the petition or something. That's what he's saying, instead of the priest starting the petition. But I don't know. I think it's helpful if the bishops start the petition. I don't know. Yeah, I kind of disagree with him on this situation. Like, it's sweet that we're also priests, prophets, and kings. But yeah, I feel like in a situation like that, like, that's the whole point of spiritual leadership. Like, they help in situations like this rally the masses. So I feel like what should have happened is he should have said, hey guys, like, when people were like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? When people were like ranting at him and being so annoying about it, he should have been like, oh my goodness, guys, we already did 3 things, and then list the things that he did. So yeah, I think his tweets took the article out of context. So those are my thoughts on it. There won't be a Marxist revolt here. I agree, and sacrilege is wrong too. Hi, Lizzie. Sorry I showed up late. We've only been going for 30 minutes. Thank you for the donation. Always Catholic Night. Legally armed Catholics should take to defending their statues and churches from the inevitable Marxist revolt. So, you think we should be... I mean, this whole situation has honestly made me realize why it's so important that we lock our churches. Like, I wish that we lived in a time when we could just open the churches all the time and go in and worship and stuff. But I kind of understand it's good that they're locked, because otherwise people could have gone inside a lot of Catholic churches and, like, put graffiti on things and torn down our church art and everything. So I think it's really good that, like, inside the churches everything is okay. But because the thing I was mentioning where the Black Madonna had graffiti on it, I think in Denmark, it was like outside. It wasn't art that was in the church, it was outside. So that's where they were able to put graffiti on the statues. So, which was a really confusing situation, because if it's Mary and Jesus depicted as black, that's Black Lives Mattering, and it's us. You know what I mean? I just didn't understand. I would understand if it was like if it was super whitewashed and like Jesus had blue eyes. I understand to be mad about that because Jesus was Jewish. But yeah, so I didn't really understand that. But I think a lot of what's happening is people are just really passionate about everything that's going on and not thinking and being really impulsive with what they're doing. So, I mean, we Catholics have a statue of the Black Mary in Loretto. So something really cool, one of my subscribers DM'd me on Instagram and was asking about someone had tweeted that every depiction of Jesus that is white should, like, we should get rid of. Sorry, I'm looking for something. Every depiction of Jesus that is white, we should get rid of the statues and the icons and everything. And I was super confused because, did I miss this super chat? Oh my goodness, I missed a super chat from a long time ago. Anyways, I'll talk about this real quick. So someone DM'd me on Instagram and was saying, someone tweeted and said that to get rid of any depiction of Jesus and Mary that is white. And my response to that was that I travel a lot for fun and for work, and I go to all the Catholic tourism churches and everything. And in a lot of the churches, like, I've seen Jesus depicted as Black, Hispanic, Native American, and in the Immaculate Conception Basilica in Washington, D.C., it's really beautiful. Mary and Jesus are depicted in every nationality ever, like in every country of the world almost. They're depicted within that individual culture, which I think is really, really beautiful. Okay, so here is a super comment. Thank you for all your videos and research. I'm Episcopal, but seriously considering Catholicism. My biggest issue is gay marriage, since I have a couple family members that are gay, so it's hard. So I recommend a book called A Bridge of Mercy. So DM me if you can't find it, but the author is A Bridge of Mercy book. Robert Stackpole, Stackpole, A Bridge of Mercy, Robert Stackpole. It goes into it really in depth. I'm reading this book right now. One of my friends recommended it to me. And also, yeah, so DM me on Instagram or Twitter. I recently sent out a lot of resources to some people in my Bible studies. I've been doing weekly Bible studies with a lot of my subscribers. So we were talking about Romans 1, which condemns homosexuality. So we were kind of talking about the context of it and the meaning of it. So hopefully those two resources will help. I am going to make an entire full-length video talking about the church's view on gay marriage and homosexuality, just because I know it's a really hot button issue, but I want to do a really good job with the video and talk about theology of the body and Humanae Vitae, and I'm reading this book that goes more in depth into all the Bible verses. So I basically am going to make like a 40-minute video, and I want it to be a really excellent video because I think that it's so easy for things to come across in a way that's harmful and does more harm than good. So I am working on that video, but if you guys have specific questions about it, I answer them a lot in live streams as well. Have you watched The Chosen? No, I have not. That was literally asked in my live stream that I did recently, so. Did you hear Ahmaud Arbery's killers were finally indicted today? That's so good. No, I did not hear. Why does it matter what skin color Jesus was? Black, white, brown, pink, blue, or green? Jesus is God and he died on the cross for us, saved us from the fires of hell, and rose from the dead. I think people are just upset if Jesus is depicted as having blue eyes when he had brown eyes. I think it's a real thing. It's just kind of weird how we make Jesus look super white. But I think that it's important that Jesus is portrayed in every single culture, since he came to save every single race and all of humanity. So I think it's beautiful that when you go to different countries, he's depicted within each of their cultures. At least that's what I've experienced, that when you travel to different places, there's a lot of diversity. Heart of the Orthodox Christian, hi. I start RCIA in 3 weeks. That's amazing. Our church has been under attack, some warranted, with corrupt clergy and many lies or misunderstandings as you try and clarify with your channel. Keep doing what you do. Comedy is so great. I fear that too much insensitivity will dehumanize from people who seriously struggle with things like racism or sexuality. I love The Office, by the way. People are racist. They're only willing to believe in Jesus if he meets their standards. Jesus is believed to have green or hazel eyes and 6 foot. That's so interesting. I mean, yeah, I'm always curious. I always imagine Jesus as kind of like mid-sized, like not really tall. I don't know why I think like that. I have no evidence for it. Um, I recently joined the Romanian Orthodox Church and got married. Like, how recently? Like during quarantine? That's so interesting. I'm glad you were able to do that. The Second Amendment doesn't incite violence. It's literally an amendment about defense. A priest found a person sneaking around our church at night wishing to bring harm. So a parishioner has paid for armed security, like during mass, or wow, that's interesting. Oh, because someone earlier so Bishop Barron, if you just got here, we were reading a Bishop Barron statement, because when it comes to them tearing down the statues of our saint, people were asking, like, what are you doing as a bishop? And he's like, well, the laity also should be, like, standing up and doing things to defend the statues. And so someone's like, what we're gonna do is use our Second Amendment right and go and defend Catholic statues. So then someone's like, how am I invoking violence for that? Because someone says that it was violent. That's pretty funny. Jewish people can have blue eyes. That's funny. You should tell people that. I did not know that. What's your opinion on secular music? Jesus wasn't 6 foot. Yeah, I always imagined him shorter. Maybe someone told me that at one point. So secular music can be really good. There can be positive themes in it. Yes, some music is just about like doing drugs and having sex and having more sex and degrading women. Like there's so many songs that are meaningless and don't have a lot of depth to them and are promoting values that could subliminally affect us. So I think you should be very cautious what music you're listening to and what the meanings are. A lot of the songs I listen to that are secular music are not sexual in nature and have meanings just about relationships and the beauty of love and breakups and fights in relationships and just different things about relationships. So I don't have a problem with like, I mean, I think it's really black and white to be like, get rid of all secular music ever. Like, obviously not. But I think you should be discerning with which songs you listen to. So, like, if a new Ariana Grande album comes out, like she has a song called Every Day about having sex every day. Like, I hate that song. I don't want to listen to that song. It's a super shallow, meaningless song. So just think about that when you listen to song meanings. Like, why would you even want to listen to something that is so superficial? I'm Jewish, Hebrew, and have blue eyes. It happens. I can't remember the church I visited, but it was in Spain. And they had statues of Mary depicted in different cultures, and it was a really good way to see her as everyone's mother. Yeah, absolutely. To see Jesus as everyone's savior and Mary as everyone's mother. I think it's beautiful. How do you deal with haters who only just make up excuses and insults instead of having a decent conversation? I talked about this in my Q&A that was just uploaded. So I recommend having a really close relationship with God, praying a lot, and reading your Bible a lot, doing like quiet time every day where you're reading scripture and like praying over your scripture, and going to mass, receiving the Eucharist, doing confession, just staying close to God. And if you're close to God, then you won't care how people view you, because you'll care the most about how God is viewing you. And if you're doing good and loving other people and spreading the gospel, then only God can judge you, and you should only care what God thinks about you, not what other people think about you. Any advice for a Calvinist converting to Catholicism? I have not told my family yet. So I have an entire video, I'll actually link it to you in the live chat, of how to tell your family that you're thinking of becoming Catholic or are becoming Catholic. Lizzie's Answers. In this video, I basically said to immediately share with them that you're wanting to convert, and to not. The video is literally called How to Tell Your Family You're Becoming Catholic, Avoid My Mistakes. So here, I'm putting it in the live chat right now. So go watch the video. I hope that helps you with how to tell them. How does one stop sinning and change their lifestyle to follow Christ? Asks Michael. So I think confession is really important because it forces you to constantly think about your sins and reflect on yourself, and especially with habitual sins, I think the rosary is really important. I think that it's miraculous and a lot of miracles can happen through it. So I think praying your rosary every day, if it's like really bad habitual sin. If we're talking about masturbation, I think that something that I've heard priests have talked to like my guy friends about have been, every time you're thinking about it, immediately go and take a walk and just get out of your house or your apartment. Just like get up and take a walk like immediately. And if you like give in for a second, then you'll give in because it's an addiction. So I made a whole video talking about that as well. And there's actually, I'll link my video talking about this. There's a software, it's like an accountability software that can help you quit watching porn. So I talked about in this video, is masturbation a sin? Wow, it has 17,000 views. Probably because it's such a hot topic. So I will link that video if anyone's thinking about masturbation or pornography and the church's view on it. Do you think an artist's lifestyle should determine whether you listen to their music? Absolutely not. I think that, I mean, unless someone's like sexually assaulting people or a pedophile or, you know, has some horrible lifestyle where you need to cancel them and get rid of them and you don't want to promote them in any way, then I understand not supporting them. But if they're just someone who like parties a lot or something, like they drink a lot and they get drunk sometimes, like I don't think that's a reason to get rid of their art. But there is like a line that if you cross it, then you wouldn't want to monetarily support them. Why did you choose Catholicism over Eastern Orthodoxy? Because of the power of the Pope. So I made an entire video that I will link talking about how the Roman bishop and papal infallibility and Rome being the final court of appeals, all of that, just the truth is that the Orthodox Church left and they always viewed Rome as the first among equals, and they left and then made the Patriarch of Constantinople the first among equals, like the new first among equals. So you cut yourself off from Rome, who was always first among equals. So yeah, the power of the Pope, and that goes all the way back to the early church. In the video, I read documents from like very original. So there is that. Archaeological research seems to indicate that the average Semite male during Jesus' estimated lifetime was 5'1". I'm thinking that was about 5'6". Wow, so he was shorter than me. I've always imagined him shorter than me. The Virgin of Guadalupe is how God proves he's not racist at all. I love that. Have you heard of the Great Chastisement? No, I have not. Holy Martyrs, 99% of modern music has left the chat. What should I study to understand the differentiation between Protestant Christians and Catholicism? So I made an entire video. This is becoming a common thing where I made a whole video about it. I made an entire video talking about Catholics versus Protestants. It was one of the videos I made this year. And Protestants versus Catholics, major differences. So I made this video talking about it. I will link the video right here. Major differences between, I'm going to type it, Catholics cool. So that is in the chat if you want to watch it. Also, in the Middle Ages, they had no technology to make the printing of Jesus' face. I love the positive in this chat. Yeah, usually there's like a lot of mean people and the moderators are like working overtime to get rid of like mean people and like derogatory comments and like people objectifying me. So I appreciate everyone today is really chill. I guess because it's earlier in the day, so people are watching like from Europe. So it's less people from America who are here. Maybe that's a thing. Like, maybe American culture is toxic or something. I don't know. That's like the only difference, is that I'm filming earlier in the day. So people more from this part of the world are watching, so. For the Shroud of Turin, I left half the comment. I've been seeing so many videos and comments relating to the end times and how Jesus is coming soon, because everyone's quarantined and there's a pandemic going on and protesting and there's sirens going on all the time. To be fair, America has been toxic over the last few weeks. I don't think protesting is that toxic. My tips for quitting masturbation: 1, give life to Christ. 2, change your view on women. 3, get rid of bad influences. 4, treat depression. 5, don't overthink it. It'll put too much pressure. I meant the riots. Okay, but there's peaceful protesting going on as well, and so I think it's really important to like differentiate people who are just protesting and then people who are like burning buildings. I think it's completely different, burning buildings and stealing things. Seeing the Protestants be conspiracy theorists is very concerning. There's always end time videos, but there have always been pandemics throughout history. I know! Literally every culture, every time in history, they're like, oh, this is the Antichrist. Like, it's always like that. There's always people who are like, the end times is coming and everything. Did you know that one of the Cimarelli sisters is not Catholic anymore? Danny, yes, I've been watching her channel. I was really disappointed. I'm sure everyone is so heartbroken. It was really sad to me watching it, because in her video, she talked about how she did a lot of research and listened to so many podcasts and read so many books. And I was like, that's what I did to become Catholic. So I was just shocked, like, what books is she reading? What podcasts are she listening to? And I think that, yeah, I was just really confused, because I feel like if you really research and look into it, and she must have not been reading in the early church. They must have been like modern books. It definitely wasn't the church fathers that she was reading. So I assume it was just some Protestant apologetics podcast that she listened to, and yeah, it's really sad. I'm sure her whole family is heartbroken. I mean, she did not have a Catholic wedding, so I think that alone was really heartbreaking to them as well. Hopefully she comes back. I mean, there's so much evidence for Catholicism being true, and so I think she could easily come back to the Catholic Church. I'm sure her family is praying for her a lot. Did you know anything about the 3 popes in 1410? There was a council to solve the problem. Yes, so there have been so many antipopes throughout church history. I have a book about the popes that I read, that I peruse through, and it just talks about how there have been so many. Sorry, I keep getting notifications on my phone from my Facebook page, and it's like, I turned off all notifications and I still get notifications. It's so annoying. So you're talking about antipopes. There was a council to solve the problem. My friend said this is why you can't have an infallible church, because they all excommunicated each other. So only one actually had the power to excommunicate, I think, is an important thing to understand. But yeah, there have always been antipopes. So obviously there's one actual pope who is the Vicar of Christ. I mean, all the bishops are the Vicar of Christ, but like pope is especially the Vicar of Christ. So there's always like that lineage going on that has been an unbreaking chain from Peter, Linus, all the way forward. So there's always been antipopes from the very early church. It's not a new thing. It's happened a ton. So it's nothing to be upset about or worried about. It's called the Western Schism. 1410 was the Western Schism? I thought that was way after. But yeah, I've definitely heard of that. It lasted for 20 years, more or less. What is your view? Sorry, guys. I have not taken European history since high school, so I thought that the Great Schism was like in the 17th century, but I guess it's in the 15th century. What is your view on tattoos? Tattoos are totally fine. I don't have a problem with tattoos. Christianity doesn't have a problem with tattoos. I'm sure some Christians do, but Catholicism clearly doesn't, so it's totally fine to have tattoos. So yeah, go get a tattoo. I mean, I don't recommend impulsively getting tattoos, but I think you should think about a tattoo for like a year. And if you've thought about getting a tattoo for a year and you still want it, then get it. But I recommend getting something really small that's like just black and tiny and not something that would like embarrass yourself, or you know what I mean? I've heard Protestants who claim that they were the Apostolic Church, when anyone who looks in a history book knows that the Catholic Church is the Apostolic Church. Do pastors lie to their church? No. So what I realized, and I made a whole video called Why People Don't Become Catholic. And the reason is because there are so many writings in the early church to read, like tens of thousands of pages of things to read. So you have to be selective, like regardless of if you're trying to find truth or not, or you're trying to manipulate or not, you have to only read some of it. Like there's too much to read. And so I think that obviously if you read, like, let's say there's like A, B, C, and D are like different groups of easily digestible documents you can read when you're in seminary. So A really looks Catholic, B doesn't look Catholic, C looks Catholic, D looks Catholic. So if you go to a seminary that's teaching B, and it just so happens that those writings don't have to do with the Pope, don't have to do with the Eucharist, don't have to do with Mary theology, they're just not even included, of course you're going to believe that it's not Catholic, because all the writings you're reading have to do with like Christology or baptism. Well, no, if baptism, they did infant baptism in the early church. So you'd have to learn, but don't read the passages talking about infant baptism, you know what I mean? So I don't think they're intentionally manipulating themselves. I think they're just reading like this type of history, and they're just not good historians. So they're reading a minute amount of data and then they're teaching that. So they're not lying. There's just like tons of information to read. So I hope that makes sense. I don't think it's malicious in any way. Yeah, my ex told me when he was little he used to attend a Protestant apostolic church, and I was really confused. 12 years of Catholic school didn't convert me. I don't think you can do it. To hell with Google for suggesting this. Okay, well, how about I dare you to watch some of my videos. I've made 100 videos talking about why the Catholic Church is the original church started by Jesus. So I will send you the video. The first video has a Joe Biden ad on it, a really cringy Joe Biden ad. Let me know if you get the Joe Biden ad when you click on the link. So Joe Biden has 2 ads I see on my YouTube channel. One is him in an office talking, and he's like, "Hey guys, I would really like for you to join my campaign." It's like that. It's so cringy. He's like stuttering in it and everything. And then the other Joe Biden ad, and he also has like a red cut on his face, which could have been covered up easily with makeup. So then there's another ad where he's like, there's like grass and trees and flowers behind him, which is a much better ad, and he doesn't have like, it doesn't look like someone punched him in the face. Could Catholics rig it to make it look like they're right though? I've never seen solid evidence of Mary theology. I've seen writings about her, but none of them said we should pray to her. So they prayed to all Christians in the early church, not Mary specifically. I do have a lot of writings, a lot of evidence talking about Mary. So I have an entire series called Mary Series on my channel. So I'm going to link it right here and have you watch the Mary series. So I talk about all of the Marian dogmas, the Immaculate Conception, the Perpetual Virginity, the Assumption of Mary. I have not made the Theotokos one, so Mary, Mother of God, yet. So I will make that soon, within the next few months. But those videos help a lot. I'm also going to link for you a video I made on relics, talking about relics. I think will be really helpful, because I do need to make an entire video on like praying to saints. It wasn't like Mary specifically who everyone's praying to, they're praying to everyone, clearly. So if you watch my relics video, which is really interesting just in and of itself, the history of relics, but it talks about asking people to pray for the dead and stuff. So I made an entire series. Yeah. I made an entire video about it and counting. Thank you for doing your Black Lives Matter video, Lizzie. Of course. I was actually thinking of making an entire video. I just don't want to have to get into the drama of it. But making a video reading the Black Lives Matter website, because they say a few things that like don't fit up with Catholic ideology. And I kind of wanted to react to it because I think people are taking it way out of proportion. And because it said something about like getting rid of the nuclear family, but they didn't mean like getting rid of the nuclear family. They just meant including like extended family and friends, like it takes a village to raise a child type approach. They weren't saying get rid of mothers and dads and let's live in like a giant house with everyone in the city together raising our children. You know what I mean? So people took it like way out of hand. But regardless, when people hashtag Black Lives Matter, they're not saying I agree with everything in the Black Lives Matter organization. They're saying Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Mattering is an important issue. Let's talk about racism. Let's end racism. They're not saying, I agree with all of BLM organization, like obviously. So that just annoyed me so much, the way people were not understanding it intentionally to avoid having to talk about racism. That's how I interpreted a lot of the Catholics who were going after it. So that would be a cool video, Caitlin said. Like one of the things on the Black Lives Matter website was getting rid of, wait, let's go to the Black Lives Matter website right now. So there was something about like getting rid of cisgender something. And I was like, what does that even mean? Okay, Black Lives Matter website. So it's in the what we believe section is where people were, what we believe. So there were a few things. So they have a lot of great things that they're talking about. So they said, we intentionally build and nurture a beloved community that is bonded together through a beautiful struggle that is restorative, not depleting. Great. We work vigorously for freedom and justice for Black people and by extension, all people. See, I love that so much because when you help minority groups, it ends up helping everyone. Like if you address systemic racism going on with like drug laws in the criminal justice system, that also helps white people. If you address how people are, like the death penalty, people are on death row for crimes that they didn't commit because they're not allowing new DNA evidence to be accepted, like that will also help white people. If you're dealing with like underprivileged schools not being funded, it will also help impoverished white people. So I like that they're talking about that. That's really cool. Every day we recommit to healing ourselves and each other and to co-creating alongside comrades, allies, and family a culture where every person feels seen, heard, and supported. Great. So let's find where are the controversial parts. We make space for transgender brothers and sisters to participate and lead. So people who have gender dysphoria, they're allowed to be part of Black Lives Mattering movement, right? And they can lead. If you have gender dysphoria, should you be able to be a leader in any place in society? Yes. Having gender dysphoria shouldn't make that not happen. We build a space that affirms Black women and is free from sexism, misogyny, and environments in which men are centered. So does that mean that they're against if if men are at the center of something, that automatically means it's bad. Am I reading that wrong? We practice empathy. We engage comrades with the intent to learn about and connect with their Okay, so here's the part that people don't like. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. So they're saying mothers, parents, and children are comfortable, like however comfortable they are with it. And then they say we foster a queer affirming network, which means that they are accepting gay marriage, which is against Catholicism. But whenever you hashtag Black Lives Matter, you're not saying you agree with disrupting the Western nuclear family and you don't want spaces where men are at the center. So I think, and then this part some people found problematic. We make our spaces family friendly. That's great. That's my YouTube channel, family friendly, making sure I don't get demonetized. And enable parents to fully participate with their children. That sounds great. We dismantle the patriarchal practice that requires mother to work double shifts so that they can mother in private even as they participate in public justice work. Great! I don't know why anyone has a problem with women not having to work double shifts. Like, everyone should just work one shift for their job. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that, but I didn't find that extremely problematic in any way. So thank you for the donation, Always Catholic Night. Hi, Alioth, how are you doing? The Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church is the actual pro-Black place, not Black Lives Matter. Did you see the tweets of Sean King, who said that people should tear down statues? Yeah, one of my subscribers, I woke up to like a DM of screenshots of that, and I was like, don't worry, the Catholic Church always supports Jesus and Mary being portrayed in every culture, so. Manuel says, hey Lizzie, I'm going into a 30-day Ignatian retreat. Know that I'll be praying for you. Next year, I'll be ordained a transitional deacon, God willing. Oh, that's so exciting. I appreciate your work. Well, I appreciate your ministry that you're going to do as well. That sounds so fun. "99% of cops who kill do not get arrested, and many innocent blacks are killed." Research Eliza McLean. Yeah, that's another thing. I was talking to one of my friends who's like, why do people get so mad after a police shooting of a black man? And I said, one of the reasons people get so mad is because a lot of times the people who killed them are not arrested or don't go to. With the killing of Martin, the guy who killed Trayvon Martin didn't even go to jail, and he literally murdered a black teenager. So when it comes to Derek Chauvin, it took him like several days to get arrested. And then there's another girl, Breonna Taylor, who was it was horrible what happened. They like came into her house in the middle of the night and shot her without a warrant or anything. It's bizarre what happened. And the people who killed her were never arrested. So that's one of the reasons why people have like seething anger going on, like so angry that they're like burning things and breaking things and looting. Like, people get so angry because if they deserve to be put into the justice system, they don't deserve to be shot by a police officer. So why can't a priest get married? Can a married man serve in the Catholic Church? Yes. So I made an entire video talking about priests being married. I'm going to we're back. Yeah. On, and that worked. Cool.